You've done the Google search, top paying IT certificates, and then the search results come back and you see that this certificate pays $160,000 and this other certificate pays $170,000. It's so easy. Get certified and get paid. Which certificate should I get? How hard is it to get these certificates? How can I get straight answers? Is it really so simple? Hi, my name is James and I've been in your shoes. Let's face it, we all want to make more money. These certificates seem like the answer, the easy button. But let's break it down. How important are these certificates really? Before I answer this question, let me give you a little background, a little perspective so you understand where I'm coming from. As an engineer, yes, I was certified. I held a few AWS certificates. As I moved into upper management, I've had to interview hundreds of candidates. So I understand this topic from the engineer's point of view, but also from the hiring manager's point of view. So let's dive in. Some certificates are worth more than other certificates. Typically, cloud computing certificates rank as the highest paying certificates, i.e. AWS, GCP, or Microsoft Azure. But don't forget that the value of a certificate is in the eye of the beholder. After all, it's just a piece of paper. From an engineer's point of view, I would probably go after a cloud computing certificate in some emerging technology, AI, ML, big data analytics, something along those lines. But you have to understand what it is that a certificate really provides. All a certificate does is tell someone that you've passed a test for some specific discipline. It isn't a guarantee, and it isn't a contract to make huge money. Let me give you a real-world example. We all know that doctors get paid a good salary, but how much do they make after passing their medical license exam? They pretty much make peanuts. The medical license gave them the opportunity to enter the residency. You see how that works? Passing the medical exam tells people that you passed the exam. It doesn't tell anyone about your skill or experience. So until a doctor gains some experience, they don't get paid very well. Technology's the same way. If you're in a field, gaining experience in that field, then getting a related certificate can bolster your earning power. But everything is based upon your experience. Just getting a certificate won't prepare you for the real world. However, if you have experience, then you will be able to apply the things that you learned while studying for that certificate. You see where this is going? So I wouldn't say that getting a certificate is a magic bullet, but there is value in obtaining a certificate provided you do it the right way. So, for example, if you're a cloud engineer with a few years of experience in AWS, getting a solutions architect certificate validates your experience. But if you have the same certificate with zero experience, well, you have zero experience. So in order to leverage the power of a certificate, you must get it the right way. That means get a certificate in a related field, something that can validate your experience, which will then increase your earning potential. Or get a certificate in a new or emerging field. If you want to get an edge, then you can get a certificate in a burgeoning discipline. If you do it early enough, there probably aren't enough engineers in the space. Again, the certificate will only get you in the door. You'll need to rely on your other experience in order to quickly ramp up. So in this scenario, the certificate gets you in the door, then you'll need to ramp up to get that experience while the technology is still young, while there's not a lot of expertise in the space. That gives you kind of a specialization. Then fast forward a few years, you'll be an expert in the space while everyone else is just starting to get in. Finally, you can get a cert if you want to change disciplines. This is similar to the previous example. Getting a cert in a different discipline tells someone that you have a base level of knowledge, but it doesn't say anything about your level of experience. So you'll need to lean on your other tech experience. But again, in this scenario, the certificate only provides an opportunity. It doesn't guarantee a salary increase. When it comes to certificates, understanding how all this works can make or break your career. From a hiring manager's point of view, how much value do I place in certificates? Honestly, not much. What do you mean? I had to study for a year to pass that test. Shouldn't that account for something? Okay, if you say so. But a certificate can only validate your experience. If you don't have any experience, well, you don't have any experience. And guess what? 5 minutes into an interview, I can tell if someone knows their stuff, certificate or not. I see resumes where people may have 1 or 2 years of experience. Maybe they just got out of college, but they have a handful of certificates. I've seen resumes with more certificates than I can count. Do you want to know what we call these people? We call them paper tigers. You want to know why? Because on paper, they look like tigers. But in the real world, do they really know what they're doing? I mean, let's be honest. How much skill and experience does someone with 12 certificates really have? When you see something like that, it's obvious that they were just going after certificates. Do you really think they retain all that information? And that's the rub. Those types of candidates place so much value in certificates. Then they don't understand why they aren't commanding the type of money that they think those certificates are worth. They seem to forget that you can determine their level of experience in just a few minutes during an interview. And since we're talking certificates, have you noticed that there aren't too many certificates for developers? Sure, if you want to develop on a platform like Salesforce, yeah, you can find certificates for that. But have you ever asked yourself, why aren't there certificates for developers? It's because certificates can only validate your level of experience. If you're a Java developer, for example, you will be asked specific questions about Java development. Most developers these days will have to take competency tests during the interviews where they will actually write out code. You can't fake it. If you know it, you know it. If you don't, you don't. So you don't really need to validate your experience. It's obvious. You see how that works? The truth is, it's the same in the world of engineering. But then, why are there so many certificates for engineers? That's because engineering is much more broad than development. With developers, I can hone in on a specific language. I can talk through specific logic. But engineering can be almost anything. It can be cloud computing, application support, automation, infrastructure, you name it, the list goes on and on and on. Many managers just aren't equipped. Most of the time, managers are more concerned about people and process than they are technology. So if they're hiring for a cloud engineer and someone has an AWS certificate, well, it's kind of like an easy button. Okay, they have a certificate, so they must know this. Then when all else fails, there's a built-in excuse. Well, he had a certificate and I expected him to know. Then to take this a step further, when you're dealing with HR and recruiters, how many of them actually know technology? Recruiters, they're going to lean on your certificates. The more the merrier. Yeah, your resume looks good. You have a ton of certificates. I think we can get X amount of dollars for you. Then you get to a manager that doesn't know the technology. Maybe you're charismatic. Maybe you hit it off. Maybe it even works in your favor and you get an offer. Yes, I've seen that happen. But the truth is, that was a complete failure in management. And it's a precursor of what's to come. The reality is, HR doesn't know technology. The recruiter saw the certificates and sold you as an expert, and finally, the manager got lazy and failed. The manager should never have hired an unqualified candidate. If I were the hiring manager, I would have asked specific technical questions that would help determine if the candidate was capable or not. If I was not technical enough to do so, then I would have had a team lead or subject matter expert on the interview to ask those technical questions. Don't forget that paper tigers can get exposed in just a few minutes. But let's play devil's advocate. Let's say somehow you got the position. Is that really the place you want to work? You already know that the manager got lazy and failed in his position by hiring an unqualified candidate. So how does that work out in the future? What happens when you need some assistance? The manager won't be able to help you out. So do you really gain the experience that you need? Do you really advance? You were hired based on your certs, not your experience. So do you really know what it takes? What happens if the job gets dissolved? How do you think you will fare in the job market? Do you think you'll slip through the cracks a second time? Or will you find out that you're overpaid and now no one will hire you at the salary you're requesting? I don't want to make it sound like it's all doom and gloom. I have seen that scenario work. A candidate was given a shot based on their certificates, then was able to ramp up and gain that valuable experience. But that's usually the exception, not the rule. At the end of the day, we can question the importance of certificates. We can provide examples and we can justify this cert or that certificate. But there's one thing that can't be questioned: your experience. Your experience reigns supreme. If you know, you know. Then a certificate is just an extra feather in your cap, an extra highlight of your accomplishments. But if you don't know, then a certificate's just another piece of paper that can be balled up and thrown out. So spend your time gaining experience. Okay, perfect. I'm excited. I want to go out and gain some experience. But what do I need to gain experience in? If you're asking yourself that question, watch this video where I lay out the top technologies to fast track your career.